The country is massing a million-strong fighting force equipped with Western weapons to recover its southern territory from Russia. In his first interview with a British newspaper since the invasion began, Oleksii Reznikov said President Zelensky had ordered Ukraine's military to retake occupied coastal areas which are vital to the nation's economy. Well, earlier I spoke to the Ukrainian MP Lesia Vasylenko, who told me why her country is increasing the size of its military.
This is an idea that has been around for a while in Ukraine, because really what Ukraine needs is enough fighting power to be able to effectively ward off Russia's aggression. Russia is the second largest army in the world. It's the largest army in Europe. It definitely outnumbers Ukraine all the time, and that is how it is able to win battle after battle. In order for Ukraine to be able to withstand Russia, we need the numbers up. The numbers up, not just to be there out in the field, but also for our men and women who are fighting on the ground to be able to go on rotation. Today, the biggest trouble that the Ukrainian army has is, in fact, that there's not enough manpower to replace the personnel, the military staff who is standing ground in the east and the southeast. So troops become absolutely exhausted. And this is why our Minister of Defense, Mr. Reznikov, has said time and time again that we need to augment the numbers. But with that, it's not just about getting more men and women into the army, it's about getting them properly trained. And this is where the support from the UK, from Germany, from other countries comes in hand, whereby we get to send thousands of Ukrainian military to the UK and to other countries as well to get the proper military training, the NATO standard military training, and then for them to come back into Ukraine and to be able to fight.
Given that so many of the men and women of fighting age have already signed up for the battle, how difficult is it going to be to raise the numbers to 1 million?
It's about changing the internal laws that regulate the mobilization. It's about performing a reform of the mobilization process in Ukraine, and that's on the way. And I think that is quite realistic, given that the management of the Ministry of Defense and also of the General Staff of Ukraine are quite set on this reform.
But if people haven't signed up already, are you going to have enough willing conscripts?
When we are talking about mobilization, it's not necessarily about those who are willing. It's about a duty which we all have as citizens of Ukraine, which is prescribed in the constitution of Ukraine, that it is the military service becomes mandatory. If you are a young man or woman who has certain military experience, and you are most likely, most people my age are most likely to have that, because in universities, military service would have been mandatory. So you would qualify as an officer. You will be eligible to be called up to the draft. If you are of fighting age between 18 and 60, and you're a man, you will be eligible to be called up by the draft, mobilized for the army. And that is what countries have to do when the whole country is in danger and when the whole country is in war. And as of 24th of February, as we all remember, the country went into martial law, into a state of war. And essentially, that state of war and that martial law has been extended ever since. And until that martial law will remain in effect, until then, every able-bodied man aged 18 to 60 will be eligible to be called up by the draft, will be eligible to be mobilized to the army.
And if you do get this force 1 million strong, will that enable Ukraine to actually push Russia back from some of the territory that it's taken? We've seen Russia seizing control of chunks of the east of the country, the more or less the entire Luhansk region, many key cities. Will this be about Ukraine holding the territory it's got, or will you actually be able to regain some of the ground that Ukraine has lost to Russia?
So the strategic plan is to actually regain the territories and to push Russia out from all of the territory of Ukraine. And with that being said, it will not be enough just to get the numbers up in the army. It's part the numbers going up is part of a formula, and that formula relies largely on Ukraine having enough modern weapons delivered on time, meaning as quickly as possible for these men and women, for the military to be able to use these weapons. Because right now, what we have is one extremely large Soviet style army fighting a much, much smaller Soviet style army. And that needs to change. If Ukraine is to win, we must become a larger, modern NATO standard army fighting with new technology, with modern, sophisticated NATO standard weapons. And as long as our partners, our international partners, continue to support us with the necessary technology and weapons and armaments that are of equivalent modern standards, NATO standards, Ukraine will be able to fight even without the numbers going up as high as 1 million in the army.
And I'm hearing, Lesia, that there are perhaps as many as 7,000 Ukrainian military personnel who are missing, presumed captured by the Russians. Is that something you can confirm?
Yes, this is the number which is circulating wildly now. It is a little over 7,000. Allegedly, these are prisoners of war, but these can also be missing in action, meaning that they would have probably died. It's a huge number. To be honest, it's a huge number, and it's the number which is the most difficult to take for the families, because when a person is killed, when a soldier is killed, of course it's a tragedy for the family, but the family has something definite in their lives. They have a closure. When we're talking about missing in action or prisoners of war, it's about and a very painful wait, a wait can which can go on for years, and in some cases for just decades. And I think that's the most painful of all of the tragedies that can hit a family during war.
You mentioned how important it is that you continue to get the support from the UK and other NATO allies. Of course, we've got this leadership contest underway. We're not going to have a new leader, a new prime minister in place until September. Now that Boris Johnson is on his way out, are you concerned that you may not get the same commitment from whoever does replace him?
I don't really have such concerns. I'm pretty much confident that all of the Conservative Party, or at least the absolute majority of it, is in support of Ukraine and is in support of providing assistance to Ukraine in order to see Ukraine win over Russia. So whoever comes next in the post of prime minister, I think that Ukraine is pretty safe and can be pretty confident on getting the support that it needs. And I hope that I will not be wrong in all of these statements, and that in fact any of the candidates who are running for prime minister now will actually take Boris Johnson's level of support as a base level and will work to the maximum to actually augment it, make it bigger, make it stronger.
Yeah, I think all of the candidates that we've heard from on this issue have stressed their commitment to continuing that support for Ukraine. But of course, Boris Johnson has built up a strong rapport, personal relationship with President Zelensky. Are you sorry to see him go?
Well, the relationship was with President Zelensky, so I think it is definitely President Zelensky was very sorry to see Boris Johnson go, but and Boris Johnson was a great friend to Ukraine. In all honesty, he inspired a lot of people in Ukraine with just the fact that he was brave enough to come out in the streets of Kiev when the fighting was still going on, when the air sirens were there. He was one of the first leaders of the G7 countries who came to Ukraine and who openly showed his support. And that gave a lot of confidence to the Ukrainian military and also to the civilians in Kiev and in the other cities alike. I mean, Boris Johnson is a bit of a hero. You know, jokingly in Ukraine, when the news spread about Boris Johnson leaving the UK government, people were inviting him in to come and seek a job in the Ukrainian government. So this is how much there is a connection there. But again, I'm sure that whoever comes next, the relationship will be built up pretty much similarly, and the support for Ukraine will only grow.
Well, that was the Ukrainian MP Lesia Vasylenko speaking to me just a little earlier this evening. Let me just remind you that if you've got a DAB digital radio at home or in your car and you've not yet managed to find Times Radio, here's a couple of tips for you. You may need to rescan your radio by pressing the auto scan button, which will give you all the latest stations in your area. If that doesn't work, look for the full scan option, which might be in the menu, or sometimes you can get it by pressing and holding auto scan for a few seconds. If you're still stuck, check out the guide on our website or email us on feedback@times.radio. You're listening to Carol Walker on Times Radio.